I've already used the Devine moisturizer, so now I'm going to go on to the Glorious Face and Eye Primer. I'm going to do the same as I did with my moisturizer and just apply this all around. I want to make sure I get it nice and evenly everywhere, and you do want to let this stuff sit for a little bit before you start applying any foundation. You don't want it to get too runny or cakey on your face or anything, so you just want to let it dry real well. Here is the Liquid Touch foundation. I use the shade Chiffon. I put a little bit on the top of my hand and use a flat kabuki brush, and I go ahead and start applying. I usually start on my cheeks and just kind of work my way around, and I really use that brush to just pull the product around as much as I can before I go in and add more. When I feel like my brush has nothing else left on it and I feel like I can't pull any more through, then I go ahead and add a little bit more. As I move to the other side, I'm using very light amounts of foundation since I've already pulled quite a bit of product over to that area there, and I'm just going through and I'm really just trying to blend everything else I can. And then I go and I do my forehead very last and then blend that in with the bottom part. What I really love about this foundation is that you do not need much at all to get full coverage on your face, and it leaves everything looking nice and smooth. Next, I'm using the BB Flawless, and I'm using a shade a lot lighter than mine. It is the shade Cream. This is what I'm going to be using as a highlight, so that is why it's about 2 shades lighter than what I normally do. And I start by making dots around my eyes. Usually I use a brush, but I cannot find where I put it right now, so I'm just going in with my fingers. I'm going to pull that down around the side of my nose there too, because I want to get a nice little highlight around that area. Then I'm going to take a foundation brush and I'm going to go through and blend that in. While I'm blending this, I'm going to take it under my eye and all the way back almost to my hairline, and I'm also going to drag it down real close to my nose, almost to the end of it. And I do this on both sides. I'm going to put it in fast forward here for you, and I get that nice and blended. After that, I'm going to take a beauty blender, and usually I use these wet, but I didn't have it prepared. And what this is going to do is it's really going to help push that up there under my eye. And you don't want to do the same motion while you're doing it. You want to go back and forth, different tapping motions. By doing this, it's going to keep it from giving you any creases throughout the day, because if you do it just one way, you're more than likely to get those creases because you're forcing it to set in just one direction. So I always go in many different directions to keep it from doing that. Next, I'm going to take that same BB cream and I'm going to put it in the Cupid's bow area above your lip. And I'm also going to apply it to the center of my chin and also on my forehead, and I'm going to go right down between my eyebrows. Doing this is also going to highlight these areas, and by doing it above your lip, it's going to make your top lip look a little bit more full. And then I put it on my chin because I actually have a butt chin, and this is going to make that little indent not look so noticeable. And then adding it to the forehead is just going to help highlight that area to give you more of that natural highlighting look, and it's also going to tie in everything else that we will be doing when we come down to contouring. Then I'm going to take that same foundation brush and I'm just going to go ahead and blend everything in real nice. I'm going to kind of spread it out as far as I can. I'm not going to go right to my hairline because that's where we're going to be contouring, and that's not normally where you would have a highlight. Next, I'm taking the pressed powder and I'm using the shade Satin, and I'm using the puff brush. This is just going to set all of my foundation on and leave it in place, and this is also going to help give me a little bit more of a matte finish from the BB cream. I'm also only going over the areas that I've already highlighted very lightly with this, and then I will also take this all the way down on my neck a little just so I don't have that drastic line. Next, I'm taking another pressed powder in the shade Charmeuse, and I'm going to use the NARS Ida brush. This is about 2 shades darker than me, and I'm going to use this to contour. And I start by very little on my brush. I'm going to kind of do a little line there, even with the top of my ear, and I'm going to kind of point towards the corner of my mouth, and I'll do the same on the other side. Then I clean off my brush where there's no product left, and then I'm just going to take both sides and I'm going to pull all of that product towards the corner of my mouth. I'm not going to go all the way, but I'm going to go very close, and this is going to give me that high definition in the cheekbone area. And I also go through and blend a little bit above where I put that line and a little bit below and a little bit down my jawline to outline it. Using the same process, I'm going to put just a little bit of product in the corners up there right on my hairline. Then I'm going to clean off my brush again and blend that in real well. I have a bit of a larger forehead, so I'm going to pull it towards the middle a little bit more instead of leaving it on the outside. This also gives you that sun-kissed look and puts the natural contouring where it should be. I put a little bit under my bottom lip, and this is going to help that lip look a little bit fuller. Again, I wipe it off and just blend it on there real well so it's not too noticeable. Next, I'm going to be using the pressed blush, and I use the shade Sweet. Then I'm going to use the blusher brush by Younique. I'm not a really big fan of blush, so I use a very little bit. So I start off on the apples of my cheeks, and then I just pull it all the way back, blending it in with the contouring that we did. And then I go through and I do the same exact thing on the other side. Again, I do this very lightly. I'm just not a really big fan of blush. I do like Younique's blush. I love the shades that they provide. They are the shades that I like, but I just still never go too heavy with it. Next, I'm using the loose pigment powder concealer, and this is in the shade Fresh, and I'm just using a random brush that I got online somewhere. I'm going to take this through and go over every single place I did with the cream highlighting, and this is just to add that little bit of extra highlight that I may have covered when I put on the rest of the products. After blending, then that is the very last step that I do with highlighting and contouring. Here's the finished look to my foundation routine using only Younique products.